Hello everybody tuning into our podcast, The History Talk Show. This is your host, Neil, and today's topic will be the Industrial Revolution. We'll be talking about how this era made drastic changes to the world and social lives. Iron and steel had already been a major part of modern life, being used in things like bridges and tools. After the Industrial Revolution, they were used to create new inventions like elevators and trains. However, in the early 1700s, the iron and steel industry was in decline due to the wood for making charcoal being too expensive. However, that all changed when the new fuel coke was created. By heating coal in the absence of oxygen, coke is formed. This new material was much more efficient and greatly reduced material costs for iron smelting. This discovery laid the groundwork for a new way to create steel, as well as harm the Earth's atmosphere. We have two special guests for you today, Henry Bessemer and Frederick Engels. Henry Bessemer is the inventor and engineer who developed the first process for manufacturing steel inexpensively in 1856. Frederick Engels is our other guest, who is here to talk about the environmental impacts that the Industrial Revolution brought to us. So, Mr. Engels, I understand that you spent some time in England studying the living conditions of the working class. How long did you stay and where did you go?
Well, I stayed for about 2 years, from 1842 to 1844. I traveled all around the country, going to larger cities like Liverpool and Manchester, as well as smaller towns like Carlisle. I wanted to compare the conditions between the large and small industrial towns in England, as well as make sure I did not miss out on any areas that could provide valuable information for my studies.
And what were some of your findings as you moved from place to place?
Well, I observed that in the large industrial cities such as Manchester and Liverpool, mortality from diseases such as smallpox, measles, and whooping cough was 4 times that in the smaller towns and villages, and mortality from convulsions was 10 times as high. The death rates were also much higher in the larger cities. The national average was around 1 in 45, while in these cities it was closer to 1 in 36. Due to having to work to help support their families, thousands of children would die before reaching the age of 5.
And can you explain the cause of these issues?
The diseases were most likely due to the excess carbon dioxide and other harmful chemicals in the atmosphere due to the increase in industrial manufacturing during this time. However, the increase in death rates can also be contributed to the horrific working conditions of factory jobs. Men, women, and children worked about 14 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and received very little pay. Children worked mostly with repairing large machines, seeing as they fit in small areas that adults can't reach, but this causes an insane amount of accidents, resulting in major injuries and loss of life.
And can you describe one of these towns for us, please?
These towns were blackened with thick smoke and were very overcrowded with sick people.
Well, that is truly awful. Thank you for coming and talking to us about all this, Mr. Engels.
Thanks for having me.
And now it's time for our next guest, Henry Bessemer. Hello, Mr. Bessemer. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
The pleasure is all mine.
So, Mr. Bessemer, what led you to create the Bessemer process in 1855?
Well, you see, making steel would always be expensive, and my invention was the first coefficient industrial process for large-scale production of steel from molten pig iron by taking out impurities from pig iron using an air blast. And by 1880, more than 90% of the U.S. used the Bessemer process as their main way to use steel.
Could you tell us how this affected the world?
Well, a positive outcome was the expansion of railroads into previously sparsely inhabited regions of the country, which had led to settlement in these regions and had made the trade of certain goods profitable, which had previously been too costly to transport.
What else did your invention contribute to?
It is easy to see the effects, such as skylines and even bridges that connect cities.
How did this affect the economy?
Think about it this way. The more steel a company is required to make, the more workers it would need by the thousands, and that's not even including construction workers. Therefore, the unemployment rate would decrease.
And what about other benefits?
My invention also led to the invention of new weapons such as cannons, as well as surgical instruments, farm implements, and tools like nails and screws.
All right. Thank you for the interview, Mr. Bessemer. And this is all for our history talk show. Tune in for more.